Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated. Grenada's economy is heading for its 7th year of consistent growth, averaging over 5%. Unemployment was reduced by 20%, while debt to GDP ratio was reduced from 108% to 63.5%. NNP committed to the economic and social development of our people. NNP delivering on the promise.
Government continues to reap the benefits of prudent fiscal behavior. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Thursday, October 10th, I am Leslie Ann Johnson. The Grenada government is reaping the benefits of introducing legislation to ensure fiscal discipline with the Fiscal Responsibility Law, which was introduced in 2016. Grenada is the second of only 3 countries in the Eastern Caribbean to introduce this self-imposed rule and the first country in the Caribbean to appoint an independent body, the Fiscal Responsibility Oversight Committee, or FROC, to oversee its spending activities. This decision, lauded by international agencies as the hallmark of good governance, is creating tremendous economic opportunities for the country. Through the enactment of the FRL, Grenada has attained a high level of fiscal stability with more than $100 million in concessionary loans and grants from the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the Caribbean Development Bank, and other friendly governments and institutions impressed with the country's fiscal discipline. Grenada was able to significantly reduce unemployment from 32.2% in 2013 to 16.7% in 2018 at the end of the third quarter, as well as the country's debt to GDP ratio, which dropped from 108% to 61.2%. These gains also enabled the government to service outstanding debt claims, regularize local supplies, undertake major infrastructural improvement to the General Hospital, the construction of the state-of-the-art Guave healthcare facility, and renovation of many public schools across the country. Grenada is now a model for fiscal discipline and a magnet for local and international investment opportunities, as evidenced in the consistent oversubscription of its treasury bills on the regional government securities markets at very low interest rates. As the benefits continue to roll in, the government must ensure that it maintains fiscal discipline by carefully deciding how best to utilize its resources so that all sectors get a reasonable share of the pie despite competing priorities. Breaching the fiscal rules has the potential to erode the economic gains and undermine Grenada's credibility, and as such, gravely hinder national development. If policymakers do not adhere to the fiscal rules, Grenada stands to lose access to extremely low concessionary loan and grant facilities for projects that will benefit thousands of ordinary citizens. The government says it remains committed to building a society where the needs and interests of all its citizens are met within legal budgetary limits. The Grenada government is willing to invest, if necessary, to help improve airlift to Carriacou. Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell, is reassuring the people of Carriacou that his government will do everything within its power to provide better options for travel between the 2 islands. Providing an update on the planned operation of a 19-seater Twin Otter aircraft, which should have commenced service in mid-August, Dr. Mitchell said the engine of the aircraft has to be upgraded. He was speaking to members of the business community and professionals at a special forum held in Hillsborough last Friday, and he later reinforced the points in an interview with the Ministry of Carriacou and Petite Martinique Affairs.
The investor who had indicated his interest and had in fact acquired that plane already for service in Carriacou had to await the Civil Aviation Authority for permission, because every one of those have to be given license to fly into a particular area. They indicated the engine was too old to be certified, and therefore the investor were asked to get new engines. He is now looking at that proposal and attempting to get that engine. I have indicated to the Minister of Tourism and Civil Aviation that we are prepared as government to partner with the individual, not to have any operational say, but making some contribution to ensure that that the investor who had indicated that he may have a financial challenge to acquire new engines, we would want him to do so, because we believe that will certainly be a very positive sign for development of the tourism sector in Carriacou.
The Prime Minister has also given assurance that a new airport for Carriacou remains a long-term development plan, but in the meantime, government is forging ahead with plans to extend the runway at the Lauriston Airport. This will enable the airport to accommodate a 72-seater aircraft, something which is anticipated will boost travel activities to and from the island.
The need to increase the length of the runway to cater for small jets has to be a major priority, and this is what the Ministry of Civil Aviation and the government will be certainly working on. With the incoming flights expansion, as we expect, with the increase in length of the runway, you look at what is happening in Carriacou with the major development in Harveyville. That is going to be, in fact, has started already bringing in enormous amount of visitors, people with resources to Carriacou, and that, of course, would lead to major opportunities in the tourism sector, and by implication, opportunities of various sectors of the society, whether it's those persons involved in the small hotel sector, those involved in the restaurant business, and other areas of services in general. You will see expansion and opportunities there. And with the development in Livera, Bathway area, with a major investor, which would have implication for Carriacou and Petit Martinique, there will be further opportunities for the tourism sector to grow.
Dr. Mitchell noted as well that the operation of the Tyrrell Bay Marina project in Carriacou and Petit Martinique are already experiencing an increased number of visitors and people with resources, which he believes will lead to major opportunities in the hotel and services sectors. He also noted that training in the area of hospitality arts is a major priority for Carriacou and Petit Martinique in a bid to ensure that we improve the quality of services offered on the islands. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Grenada, it's coming as the Ministry of Youth, Development, Sports, Culture and the Arts brings to you National Youth Week 2019, and it's one full week of activities, vibes and action as the nation turns their attention on the nation's youth. And it's from Saturday, October 19 till Saturday, November 2nd under the theme Embracing Opportunities, Sowing Higher. October 19th and 20th, National Community Service Weekend, island-wide. October 26th, Health Walk and Ministers Address. October 27th, Ecumenical Service and Peace Concerts. October 28th, Youth Vibe. October 29th, St. John's Youth Parliament. October 30th, Job Fair and Career Day. October 31st, Fun Nights. November 1st, Discovering Talents and Expo. And on November 2nd, it's National Youth Awards. So urging everyone to be a part of Youth Week 2019, October 19th to November 2nd.
Grenada's Minister for Trade, Industry, Cooperatives and CARICOM Affairs, the Honourable Oliver Joseph, joined his Commonwealth counterparts in London on Thursday in a meeting that focused on strengthening multilateral trade, fighting protectionism and progressing efforts to achieve a $2 trillion worth of trade within the Commonwealth by the year 2030 by strengthening 5 key areas of connectivity: digital, physical, regulatory, supply side and business-to-business connectivity. The outcome of this meeting will shape trade-related discussions at the next Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting scheduled for June 2020 in Kigali, Rwanda. Thursday's meeting was also designed to help build on the progress made at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting last year as heads seek to take advantage of new opportunities. The ministers also reflected on how to make trade more inclusive and sustainable by engaging more women and youth at all levels, as well as developing the blue and green economy. Grenada is collaborating with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank ECCB to launch the Digital EC-Carib project, which will see the reduction of cash and the issuance of highly secure digital currency within the ECCU. The project, which was launched 7 months ago, provides the digital platform through a mobile app for member countries to access innovative real-time payment. During a press conference via Zoom on Thursday, Governor of the ECCB, Dr. Timothy Antwine, said the development and assessment of the project is progressing smoothly. He says pilot countries should be able to test the digital platform by April next year.
Go into the App Store, download the app, the DXZ Carib app. You will then be connected with partners, financial institutions, mobile wallet providers. You scan to make the payment. The payment is recorded, and then your account gets debited, the vendor gets credited, and you get a confirmation at the end. We're now about to enter a very important phase, which is user interface and testing and public education. And yes, we have to do a lot of public education around this. We understand that. And so you will see, next slide, you will see a number of steps over the next few months to actually engage financial institutions, finalize the requirements, engage users, make sure that we shape and finesse the user experience in this testing period before launch. And of course, to get the public to appreciate what it is that we're doing. And there'll be a lot more public education on this in the next few months. So I want you to stay tuned on that. Our hope is that somewhere around March next year, March, April, we'll actually go live.
The project not only reduces the use of cash and checks, it also affords a private, highly secure method of doing business.
We're extremely cognizant of the absolute necessity for a safe payment instrument in our digital XCD or digital EC dollar. Therefore, access to the network will be permissioned, will require username and password, and transactions between parties will be guaranteed. That's part of our value proposition for this project. In addition, going back to the KYC protocols and requirements, identities will be verifiable. So, you will be private. We will operate on a private permission blockchain to ensure confidentiality, but built into that system is that we, for example, the regulator, can verify.
Dr. Antwine says by the year 2025, the ECCB could see a reduction in the use of cash by 50%.
Looking out 5 years from now, 2025 thereabouts, we see a reduction in cash by about 50%. Certainly that is our aspiration. Notice, cash does not disappear. So this is not cashless. Cash reduced by about 50%. Checks by about 80%. We go in green. Paper and checks are expensive. We have to reduce our use of checks. Credit cards, debit cards will continue. They have their convenience, and we believe that they will pick up, and we anticipate possibly them growing by 50 or 40% respectively. Electronic payments, maybe by about 60%, the wires and various things. And DXD, or digital dollar, will pick up where the physical cash falls off.
St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Antigua and Barbuda are the other pilot countries. In Grenada, the pilot partners are the Grenada Cooperative Bank, Ariza Credit Union, Republic Bank, GUT Credit Union, Communal Cooperative Credit Union, and CIBC First Caribbean International Bank. And that's the National Report. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson.
The following is a statement from the Ministry of Finance. Salary talks between the government negotiating team and the joint negotiating union team of Public Workers Union and the Technical and Allied Workers Union became stalled and deadlocked at the third session on October 8, 2019. The dispute has now been referred to the Ministry of Labour for conciliation by the Labour Commissioner. The trade unions are insisting on a near 25% increase in pay without providing written justification for their demands. Those demands would increase the government's expenditure on salaries by more than $90 million over the next 3-year contract cycle. This demand is highly unrealistic and far exceeds any such payment of salary increases locally and in the region, including lucrative businesses in banking and other areas of the private sector, with which TAU and other unions have signed. During the last contract cycle, workers received increases every year during 2017 to 2019, amounting to 10% compounded increase over the period. The union's current demand, amounting to 150% of the previous settlement, is unsustainable and unprecedented. The government negotiating team proposes an increase to public officers of $26.5 million as part of an overall package where the state has already made additions to the restoration of pensions to appointed, qualifying public officers. Additionally, the state would provide further increases through increments to public officers whose contracts of employment would now be of an unspecified period, giving them permanent tenure. The union's demand for a near 25% increase in pay will overturn all the sacrifices made by the country to achieve fiscal stability and economic growth. Millions of dollars in grants and concessionary loans currently secured by Grenada would be extinguished. Programs of house repair and training programs for the youth and labor assistance to farmers would have to be cut, and this would also significantly reduce the assistance government provides to homes for the elderly and any wage increase which would go to the workers there. Additionally, Grenada will have to resort to the retrenchment of hundreds of public officers, something the government of Grenada has successfully avoided. The demands would also trigger an inflationary spiral and lead to a flight of direct foreign investment from the local economy, leading to job losses in the private sector and a return to high unemployment and a fall in family incomes once again. Since June this year, the government negotiating team circulated to the unions its policy guidelines for salary increases, which emphasized that salary negotiations must be fact-based and within the fiscal responsibility law. In an earlier letter to the unions, the negotiating team warned that this unrealistic demand raises the question of good faith collective bargaining. And it also counseled that one ought not to come to the table with demands which are financially impossible for an employer to meet. In its letter, the government negotiating team also requested that the unions revise their demands within reason and reminded them that by law, negotiations should be concluded on salary increases by October 31st in order to meet inclusion in the budgetary allocations for the fiscal year 2020. The union's failure to adopt a realistic and reasonable position in the negotiations led government to reject the proposal. The next step is conciliation through the Office of the Labour Commissioner.
Hard Talk Grenada via www.hardtalkgrenada.com.
Hi, bad mind. What are you telling yourself?
Dirty heart could see what they want. They could never stop me, no. They could do as they please. They could never pull me down. 'Cause I was born as a winner. Dirty heart, tell me why is your sin? now. All you can tired, but mine need to walk it. All you try to get me fired, but that still ain't working. Try to make my woman leave me, but that still ain't working. Go by you, be a man to do me. Oh, give up now. Advice for you, don't try me. I'm too blessed for you. I come from a humble place where Jaja watch over we. Dirty heart, you could say.
Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. A special good morning to all of you joining us on 97.5 City Sound FM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Sister Isle Radio, and that's broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 We Noise Radio out of Brooklyn, New York. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada, of course, with me, Ms. Duncan. Today, Sheldon took just a short day off to deal with some personal issues, of course, but he'll be back with us on Monday. Don't get frightened. I know every time Sheldon missing all, you think is something wrong, but it's not. It's not. He took a personal day today, you know. But it's a beautiful Friday morning. It's a wonderful sunny day. We've had a few days of rain, much deserved rain at that, and of course we're thankful for that. Of course we have had a wonderful week, an exciting week, an eventful week. So many things popped up during this week. Some things leaving people upset, some happy, you know, gave us a lot of mixed emotions. But of course, you know, our job here on Hard Talk is to bring you the facts, break it down so everybody in all stratas of society can understand what's happening in Grenada and in our society. So, of course, I'm going to be giving you a bit of a run through of some of the things that would have transpired during the week, whether it's national, whether it's, you know, just the simple things in life. So we're going to go through a few of those things this morning. Of course, it is Friday, so our lines are ever open, so you can call, give your contribution, you know, let us know what's going on in your little corner of the country, and let's just have a good time this morning. Of course, the number is 440-7377. You're free to call and contribute to our conversation this morning. And of course, you know, this morning I have to start with what we left off with on Wednesday, which is that issue that we're having now between the government and the unions. And it would be nice for persons to call in and just give us an idea of your understanding of what's happening, you know, because we here, of course, our aim is to provide information and to give you as much information as possible as it relates to what's happening with these issues and situations. But of course, it'll be nice every now and again for you guys to call in and let us know what you understand about what's happening. You know, so if, of course, there are any misconceptions that you have or that even I may have, because, of course, I never, ever want to be seen as the person who knows everything. I learn just as you, and of course I am here to share what I know and what I have learned with you. And of course, if you have a different idea and a different ideology of how things should be or how you think it should be, then of course you are open to call us and share with us what those things are. I heard recently that the unions are saying that they are not at a deadlock, and of course this baffled me, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why this baffled me, because my understanding is that a deadlock, of course, is a situation, right, typically involving opposing parties where no progress can be made. And that's the definition of a deadlock. And if you have two parties coming together at a negotiating table and you, first of all, approach the negotiations with a demand that is, and that you know for a fact, that is absolutely impossible to agree on or impossible to reach, and then you decide that you're not going to budge from that. So if the unions are saying we want this, the government is saying this is unsustainable and we cannot do it, so provide us with an alternative, and you cannot do that, or you refuse to do that, isn't that a deadlock? Does that not mean that the two parties are unable to agree? Right? So that is generally what has happened in this situation. The government and the unions cannot agree on an amount, and the amount that the unions are demanding or that they are insisting upon is 25%, and that is unsustainable. Right? The government is saying that it is unsustainable. And we've had this argument before. We've had this argument before, just months before, when the unions and the government sat at the same negotiating table saying that, 25% gratuity is too much. We can't pay that. It is unsustainable. And here we are months later with a similar situation of 25%, and we're saying that it is unsustainable, and nobody is willing to budge. The union is still insisting on an unsustainable amount, an unreasonable amount, and they're saying that it's not deadlocked. So, well, if it's not deadlocked, then it means that they're probably willing to provide another alternative. If that is the case, then they need to be clear on that and say, okay, well, we don't see it as a deadlock simply because we are willing to concede. We're willing to say, okay, let's come up with a figure that is sustainable, that the government and the country can manage, where the people of the state do not suffer as a result of this. If that is the case, then we can refrain from saying deadlock. But as far as it's concerned right now, it is a deadlock because nobody is willing to say that, they cannot agree that 25% it's just unreasonable. And I mean, these are the facts. I want to just break down the facts for you on this issue so that you understand exactly what is happening. So the government negotiating team, right, they would have sat with the unions. It was a joint negotiation between the union, Public Workers Union, and the Technical Allied Workers Union. So that's PWU and TAU. So they sat on Tuesday, October 8th, and they, for their third session of salary negotiations. Now, this is completely different from the negotiations of pension and gratuity, right? So this is a completely separate issue. So they would have sat on Tuesday, and they would have discussed, or at least attempted to discuss, the upcoming cycle. So the cycle comprises of 3 years. So we have 2020, 2020 to 2023, I believe. Yes, 2020 to 2023. That's the 3-year cycle that is up for negotiations, right? And the unions decided that they would like, over that 3-year period, an almost 25% salary increase, right? Now, that 25% salary increase is going to amount to a wage bill, an increase in the government's wage bill, right, of more than $90 million. Okay? So that's $90 million increase in the current wage bill of the government if they were to agree to this 25%, right? Now, off the bat, you can see that this is an unrealistic, it is absolutely unrealistic demand, right? Because that is actually, it's about 150% more than the previous settlement. So the previous settlement would have been from the period we're in 2019 now. So 2017 to 2019, that would have been the 3-year period, right? They would have had a salary increase during that period that would have amounted to 10%, right? So the 25% increase that they're asking for now is 150% more, right, than what they would have received before that. I mean, off the bat, we can see that this is unsustainable. This is absolutely ridiculous, and I'll say it as it is, because I think sometimes we sit and we try to put words together to make it sound nice, and sometimes things need to be said as it is. It is ridiculous. That is what it is, right? It is ridiculous. So government has already paid over $110 million in benefits to these workers during that period. Okay? So apart from them receiving that 10% increase in 2017 to 2019, they would have received $110 million in benefits during that period. Okay? And the government has already restored pensions to public officers who qualify, right? And they've already paid out $50 million. Now, these are the things that the unions don't tell you. They're not going to say, oh, well, the government has done so much for the workers. They've done all of these things for the workers. All they want to say is that the government is not doing what we have asked them to do for the workers. That is generally the message that is being sent out there. And that is not, it's not true. It's not a true representation of what's happening in the country with our workers. I know we want to sympathize with them. We feel for them. Of course, nobody is saying that they do not deserve. Nobody is saying that they don't have to get more, or there is not reason behind why they should get more, right? All of these arguments can be had. But the real argument here needs to be, can this amount be sustained? Can the government afford to continue paying this amount? Because we're talking about a 3-year period from 2020 to 2023 of 25% increase. Right? So we went from 10% in 2017 to 2019. We went to 25% in 2020 to 2023. So let's talk about what happens now in 2024. What amount are we now going to jump to? And then we also have to take into consideration that this administration, while we are here to govern the country now, the people may say, okay, well, we want a change. And by all rights, they have that constitutional right to vote for a change. And if we get that change, whatever government comes into office, and we need to keep that in the back of our minds, whichever government comes into office, they are obligated by law to pay that 25% and whatever percentage comes after that by the unions. So to me, and I know Sheldon and I had this discussion, and he's saying, oh, well, they're not informed. I believe that they are very well informed. Because in order for you to make this kind of claim, you have to have some kind of backing. I mean, it would be very unwise of the union to not be well informed and go to the negotiating table, right? Then their membership must question their leadership, if that is the case, So we have to be very, very careful in the information that we put out there. So the facts. Let's get back to the facts. Let's do a comparison. So in 2008, right? In 2008, when the National Democratic Congress was in power, they were governing the country. And of course, they would have said, well, it was the beginning of the economic crisis and we had no choice. We didn't know what to do. That is a poor excuse. And I'll tell you why it's a poor excuse. Because your duty, the reason we put you there, the reason the people of the state of Grenada would have elected you was to find a way to help us. So there was an economic crisis. Your duty as the government was to find a way to cushion the effects of the economic crisis so that the Grenadian public doesn't feel the weight of it. I mean, yes, we're going to feel it. Even the big bad America, they had the same economic crisis. Their people felt it. But the difference between the difference between that administration and this administration is that when we got into office in 2018, the first thing that we sought to do was to find a way to fix the problem. A solution for Grenadians where we can live comfortably even in the face of an economic crisis. And that is something that we all need to take and put in the back of our minds. In 2008 to 2013, that's only 4 years. 5 years, sorry. That 5 years, they're saying that we couldn't do anything because there was an economic crisis. So the Grenadian people suffered, right? Public workers waiting until the 15th of the following month to collect a salary. That's sad. That's something we're not talking about. We have to be mindful, people. We have to be. We have to be. So we're going to take a short break and then we're going to come back with some more facts on this issue for you, right? We have to keep talking about the facts, people. We have to keep talking about the facts.
The following is a statement from the Ministry of Finance. Salary talks between the government negotiating team and the joint negotiating union team of Public Workers Union and the Technical and Allied Workers Union became stalled and deadlocked at the third session on October 8, 2019. The dispute has now been referred to the Ministry of Labour for conciliation by the Labour Commissioner. The trade unions are insisting on a near 25% increase in pay without providing written justification for their demands. Those demands would increase the government's expenditure on salaries by more than $90 million over the next 3-year contract cycle. This demand is highly unrealistic and far exceeds any such payment of salary increases locally and in the region, including lucrative businesses in banking and other areas of the private sector, with which TAU and other unions have signed. During the last contract cycle, workers received increases every year during 2017 to 2019, amounting to 10% compounded increase over the period. The union's current demand, amounting to 150% of the previous settlement, is unsustainable and unprecedented. The government negotiating team proposes an increase to public officers of $26.5 million as part of an overall package where the state has already made additions to the restoration of pensions to appointed, qualifying public officers. Additionally, the state would provide further increases through increments to public officers whose contracts of employment would now be of an unspecified period, giving them permanent tenure. The union's demand for a near 25% increase in pay will overturn all the sacrifices made by the country to achieve fiscal stability and economic growth. Millions of dollars in grants and concessionary loans currently secured by Grenada would be extinguished. Programs of house repair and training programs for the youth and labor assistance to farmers would have to be cut, and this would also significantly reduce the assistance government provides to homes for the elderly and any wage increase which would go to the workers there. Additionally, Grenada will have to resort to the retrenchment of hundreds of public officers, something the government of Grenada has successfully avoided. The demands would also trigger an inflationary spiral and lead to a flight of direct foreign investment from the local economy, leading to job losses in the private sector and a return to high unemployment and a fall in family incomes once again. Since June this year, the government negotiating team circulated to the unions its policy guidelines for salary increases, which emphasized that salary negotiations must be fact-based and within the fiscal responsibility law. In an earlier letter to the unions, the negotiating team warned that this unrealistic demand raises the question of good faith collective bargaining. And it also counseled that one ought not to come to the table with demands which are financially impossible for an employer to meet. In its letter, the government negotiating team also requested that the unions revise their demands within reason and reminded them that by law, negotiations should be concluded on salary increases by October 31st in order to meet inclusion in the budgetary allocations for the fiscal year 2020. The union's failure to adopt a realistic and reasonable position in the negotiations led government to reject the proposal. The next step is conciliation through the Office of the Labour Commissioner.
Youth Biz come to transform our lives, youth, with the training that we provide to maximize employment among our youths. Hey, supporting the youths and transforming life through entrepreneurship and proper finance, so you'd have a better life to live. Training, supporting and financing small businesses. Let's go, go, go. Business plan development, office services, and so much more, more. Youth Biz. Transforming lives through entrepreneurship.
All right, and we are back. And of course, I want to say good morning to all of you who are joining us here on the live video. Good morning, Claudette. Good morning, Yvonne. Devon, good morning. Devon, when you coming back? Devon, I miss you, no? I find I ain't hearing you. Time for you to give me a call and tell me when you're coming back, you know. Good morning to all of you who are joining us. Hannah, good morning. Good morning to you. All right. So, yes, we are back with those facts. And that clip that we played earlier, I think it's something that needs to be circulated a little bit more because, I mean, it holds so much weight and it's so factual. And I think that is what we need to start doing from now. We need to start letting people know more of the facts, you know, beforehand and not after it's been so beat up by the opposition who tend to try to swing things their way, you know. So we have to keep talking about the facts. And as the clip said, if we are to agree, if the government is to agree on the 25% that increase that the unions are demanding, there will be so many adverse effects. There'll be so many adverse effects. We are talking about families who normally receive assistance from the government. That may have to be drastically decreased. I'm not going to say cut, but it would definitely have to be reduced, right? We're talking about all of the programs that the government would have put in place to help our youth, things like Imani, things like Empower, all of these things. We're looking at all of these things that would have to be drastically reduced, you know? And we're talking about Grenada losing millions of dollars in grants and concessionary loans, right? People are quick to come to Grenada and invest. They're quick to give us grants. And you know why? Because we have proven over the years to be fiscally responsible, right? That Fiscal Responsibility Act, it wasn't put in place as a muzzle for unions and for opposition and so on to say that we are not willing to give. That's not why it was put in place. That act was put in place because after coming out of an economic crisis, we had to put measures in place to ensure that the government was held responsible for the monies that they spent, to ensure that the government was managing their money properly, to ensure that we had a gauge, a filter, a scale as to how much money the government has at its disposal, you know. And it gets me so riled up because I don't understand why we are not seeing the benefit of this. It only takes a responsible government to say, let us put a muzzle on ourselves. That's what they did, you know. Let us put handcuffs on ourselves so that we are accountable for the people of Grenada's money. That is what you call a responsible government. So this Fiscal Responsibility Act, it wasn't put in place so that we could tell the unions no, or so that we could tell public workers no, or so that we could say, well, we don't have money to do this and we don't have money to do that. You think the government, if possible, wouldn't want to say, yes, give the public servants the 25% increase because they well deserve it. They would want to do that because it benefits them. Remember, a happy workforce is a productive workforce, you know, and they want a productive workforce. So if they could, really and truly, let's look at this objectively. The public service is at the service of the people. The public service is built around not a political party, but around members of the state of Grenada, right? If the government could inject more money into the public service to get them to be more productive, don't you really and truly think that they would just do it? Of course they would do it. Because not only does it benefit the country, but it also benefits the government, the administration benefits. Because guess what? You get more productivity, you get more things done in the country, right? So if we are looking at this thing objectively, then we could see that if the government was able to do it, they would do it. Let's be honest, they would do it because the workforce is at the benefit of the administration. If you have a happy workforce, of course you would have a more productive workforce. Let's be honest, And like I said, the public workers, you have employed the union. You have employed them to work on your behalf. They are to report to you and say, is this what you want? Because at the end of October, that would be the 31st of October, if they do not come to an agreement by then, it means that any increase that should have been allocated to the public workers for January 2020 that needs to be placed in the budget, that budgetary allocations need to be made for. If by October 31st that is not done, then there will be no increase in salary. You ain't getting 25%, you ain't getting 10%, you ain't getting 5%. You will get no percent. You understand? So you have to hold your leadership in terms of the union accountable. Have they met with the membership of the public workers and asked them, what do you want? Have they done that? Because this 25%, we all know it is unreasonable. Have they sat with you and said, well, we are going to ask for 25%. We know it's a long shot, but we're asking you to bear with us. Have they, as the employees, come to you and say, this is what we plan to do on your behalf? Has that been done? If not, then you need to call on them as the employer and say to them, well, you need to speak with us first, Who tell all this 25% we want? We working in the public service, we know the government cannot afford 25%. So y'all have to come up with something else. And y'all need to justify to us why you are asking for 25%. These are all conversations that the membership of the union need to have with the leadership of the union. Because you are paying monies every single month to the unions to work on your behalf. But it's not just to go out there and say, let's squeeze the government for all they've got and see if we get something out of it. That's not what you are paying them for. You are paying them to negotiate on your behalf for the best option for you. 25% is not the best option for you because the government cannot afford it. So right off the bat, you know it's going to be a big no. Right? And if you know it's going to be a big no, then they must have an alternative to put to the table. It's just like the opposition saying, no, the road ain't good. No, the government ain't doing nothing good. No, they ain't have no plan. And we are asking them, well, what is your plan? And they also have no plan. Right? So you're saying, no, you're opposing for opposition's sake. You have no plan, but yet still you cannot say what you want to do or what you can do or what even the government can do, what your suggestions to the government are. Right? To help build a country. You're going to keep all of it in your back pocket. So you have all the ideas to fix the country, to make it a better place. And you're going to keep all of it in your back pocket. And you're going to let the people of Grenada suffer for the next 5 years because you believe that you have all the plans. That's not how it works. The opposition is not there to oppose. The opposition is there to assist. The opposition is there to ensure that the government is doing the job that they are doing and to help in areas that they can help in to ensure that the people of Grenada benefit. Because at the end of the day, that is all that it is. You are put there to work for the people of Grenada, to benefit the people of Grenada, whether it is your supporters, whether it is NNP supporters, whether it is GLP supporters, whatever supporters it may be. At the end of the day, when you go into government, you don't see NNP supporters. You don't see NDC supporters. You don't see the STAR supporters. You don't see that. What you see is a country of citizens who need your help. And that is what we need to understand. So don't sit there and let the opposition put in your head that, oh, the government only helping NNP people, because that's not true. Because guess what? Whatever increases that come to the public service, it's not only NNP people in this public service. And I'm tired to say that. The public service is filled with all different colors. It's like a rainbow. You have NDC, you have NNP, you have people who don't even have any political affiliations. So it's like a rainbow. So when they get into government, when they get into that system, they don't see NNP, they don't see NDC, they see a country of people that need their help, and they are willing to serve. And we need to get to that point. So the opposition, while you have your base, you have your NDC base that you need to keep happy, of course, you also need to ensure that the statements you make, that the things that you do are not hurting the country, right? Because the country is everybody. The country is not divided. The citizens of this state, they are not divided, or at least they're not supposed to be divided. Because whatever administration goes into government, it is for the benefit of all of the people. When a road fix, it didn't mark NNP people alone ride on this road. When a school is fixed, it doesn't say only NNP children allowed to go to that school. It is for everybody. Right? So we definitely need to take these things into consideration. So let's move back to the facts. I get a little emotional sometimes when I think about these things, because I think about my children and I think about the legacy I want to leave behind for them. I think about the country that I want them to grow up in. I want them to stay in Grenada. I want them to be able to contribute to Grenada. I want them to be able to say, I am proud of my origin country. That's what I want for my children. I want to make sure that they grow up in an island that is financially, economically stable, where they can send their children to schools that are of top class, in an education system that is top class, where they can experience a healthcare system that is also top class. But with all of these things that I wish for my children, I must put in the work. Because I cannot sit here and say, well, I want this, that, and the other for them, and then I'm sitting here just condemning everything that the government does or everything that the opposition does, and I'm not putting in the work. I'm not contributing. I'm not doing my civic duties, and yet I'm complaining, but I want my children to reap the benefits. That's unfair. That is an unfair thing to say, So we all have to take these things into consideration. It makes me emotional, it gets me emotional, it touches a spot because I am a citizen of the country. I have investments in this country, and I have children who I hope will also make investments in this country. So I want to see the best for the country, And I try as best as possible not to speak with a biased voice, but to also speak objectively. And my views, of course, are my own views. People are entitled to have different views, but we must also ensure that we have the facts and that we are making statements based on facts and facts from credible sources. So if the government was to concede to that 25%, jobs will be lost. Because guess what? In 2018, April, not so long ago, we had our neighboring country, Barbados, who was going through the same economic crisis that we were going through, right? And you know what they had to do? They had to send home 7,000 public servants. Let's just take that in for a moment. Let's just reflect on that. 7,000 of their public servants had to go home. That is 7,000 families we're looking at, or maybe under 7,000, because you might have a husband and a wife in the public service. That is 7,000 families who were without a job, without bread and butter. That is 7,000 families who had to now depend on the same government to assist them. Let that sink in for just a moment. And now let's talk about Grenada and our 25%. And if we were to concede to that 25%, what would happen to us? It is an absolute definite fact that we would have to retrench workers. So let's say, okay, we agree. 25% it is over 3 years. The government cannot sustain it. So we are at a point where now we have to say to these workers that would have just gotten a 25% increase over 3 years, we now have to say to you, I'm sorry, the government cannot continue to have you in their employment. What will happen then? These same public servants that just receive that 25% increase would have to now turn to the same government to assist their families in that hard time. Let's be reasonable. Let us be reasonable. That is just a fact. It is just a fact. In that same April of 2018, right, they were given an increase of 5%. I hope you all heard that. After 7,000 people in Barbados were sent home, the remaining people took an increase of 5% with no retroactive pay. The first thing we like to jump up and ball in Grenada is my back pay. I want my back pay. I want my retroactive pay. They received no retroactive. Did you see those same public servants on the street in Barbados with their placards jumping up and making noise? Do you know why? Because they understood. They understood the implications. They knew that if we did not agree to this 5%, that some of us, they're going home too. So the 7,000 probably would have increased if they decided that they were not going to agree to that 5%. So it is at the benefit of themselves and their families that they agreed. If 5% is what the government can afford, we agree that we will take that 5%. And that is how we need to think here in Grenada. I know we often make reference of other countries and so on when we're doing these things, but it has been a custom of ours. So if we're doing it, then let's do it. Let's talk about it, right? 25%, and then half of the workforce is sent home. And then the same government has to help these same families out. So instead of receiving $200 increase on your salary, you ain't getting no salary at all. Imagine that for just a moment. Let's think about that. And this is not the government blackmailing you and saying, oh, well, if you all ain't agree, we have to send some of all you home. And that's not what it is. It is just the raw facts. Maybe nobody has ever sat down and said to you, as raw as it is, that if this happens, this would be the consequence. Cause and effect. Right? Cause and effect. This is what has happened, and this is the effect. This is the consequence. And that's just the reality of life. It is just the reality of life. Wherever there is a cause, there is an effect. Wherever there is an action, there is a reaction. And with every action, there is a consequence. So we have to keep that in our minds. And then let's just stroll for a moment into the public service. And let's talk about those thousands of workers who are unestablished. But I have a call, so I'll come back to that. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, my dear.
Good morning, Miss Jacob. How are you?
Well, you nearly didn't make it for the morning, or no?
What happened? I know you have the cold. I know you're suffering with the cold. How are you?
Otherwise, good number 2 good.
Oh. Well, Miss Jacob, you really feel you needed to let the whole of Grenada know that?
Well, no, I'm letting the whole of Grenada know that. And I take some milk of milk of I know that is the other one. That is
some Dika.
Salva. I take some Salva girl.
And you better know.
Yesterday I take some Salva girl. And last night, oh my God, I did it.
Miss Jacob.
But by the grace of God.
Yes.
Daddy make me see. Daddy could have let me go home, but Daddy said, no, Jacob, please, I know you have too much thing down. They're going to take care for me.
All right.
I can't take you now. Go back wrong.
All right.
Yourself. And I just don't take some tea there. I take my vitamin tablet.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will go and drink some hot milk. Let me tell you something about this, because I'm going right back down to 70, coming up in the 80s.
Tell us.
Eh?
Tell us.
Let me tell you something. You see these civil servants and this union and them, they behaving just as long ago people. Long ago union and them, you know, with Blaze, because remember this is Blaze. Yeah, man, they with Blaze. Make Blaze sell all kind of assets to pay them the money. Now when Blaze do give them the money now, you know what Uncle Blaze tell them? The worst cake to get is from a dying man. You know he give them the money and then he die. You know that? So those civil servants, those the head ones, don't push those little ones in front from me, please. Don't do it, because he go fire back and those little ones. Because you see how he fire back and all you, and you push the bigger ones. The bigger ones push you and you go for it. What? I go help take the kick. I go help take the kick.
All right. Well, thank you so much for calling, Ms. Jacob. It's always good to hear from you.
And then you see, darling, make sure, I hope you have some water by your side, eh?
I do. I find I coming down with a little tickle in my throat. I hope it's not the cold, right?
You must have some water.
Yes, I have it.
Sweet tea.
Yes.
And you take the sweet tea, you put it in your mouth, and you make a little talk. You put that good water in it, and you know, I want my girl to be all right for my children, you know.
I know.
Are you mad?
I know.
I want to bring up the children just as how your mother bring you up.
Absolutely.
Okay, sweetheart?
Absolutely.
Have a wonderful weekend, Popo.
You too, Miss Jacob.
Baby.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. It's always good to hear from Miss Jacob. Always good. But we're going right back. And I was going to make a reference to the unestablished workers. Let's talk about them for a moment, because they're there putting in the work and nobody's really talking about them. So let us talk about them for a moment. Now, these unestablished workers, they have not been appointed by the Public Service Commission, which means that they do not hold a permanent position within the public service, which also means that they will not be eligible for salary increase during that period. Now, why not say to the government then, the unions, that, okay, we understand that this increase is for our established workers, right, within the public service. That's what this increase is for. But we have 5,000 or 3,000 or 2,000 unestablished workers who are also putting in a lot of hard work. Let us negotiate for them as well. So 25% is unreasonable, and we understand that. Why is the union not saying, let's also negotiate for our unestablished workers and include them in the pie? So if you're aiming for 25% and your justification for 25% is because, well, we only want the public servants, the established workers to get 20% and the other 5% go to the unestablished workers, and that justification is given, then we can say, okay, we see your justification. Although the government is not able to meet that 25%, at least these unestablished workers are being catered for, because guess what? They also pay union dues. They are also members of the union. But who is fighting for them? It's like you employ somebody to work on your behalf, or a lawyer to work on your behalf, but the lawyer only working for half of the people. Ain't working for all. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, and how are you?
I am good, and how are you?
I'm all right, thanks.
Wonderful.
Praise the Lord. I just like to greet you in the wonderful name of Jesus. My name is Veronica. I am doing a telephone ministry, which I just want to remind you that trouble is about to fall upon the face of this earth, and each one have to tell one. And if we have not yet made Jesus our Lord and Savior, we need to do so before it is eternally too late. All right, sister?
All right. Thank you so much for calling.
Have a nice day. Remember, Jesus loves you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. All right.
Anybody else around I could speak with?
Oh, no, you're calling a radio program, so it means that
right,
you would have reached many.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. You would have reached many.
All right, then.
All right.
Okay, then. Bye.
Okay. So we need to take into consideration that the public service does not only encompass the established workers, but we also have the unestablished workers as well, you know, and they need to hold their unions accountable because they're paying union dues. So what about us? That's a simple question. What about us? So they are not viable for any increases or anything like that because they are not appointed by the Public Service Commission as permanent workers, right? So we've brought them into the picture. Now let's see how they fall into this 25%. If the government decides, yes, we are going to agree on 25% and we're going to pay them the 25%, but we have to send some workers home, who do you think is going to go first? Let's think about that for a minute. Who do you think the government will send home first? Now, if the government decided that they were going to send home the established workers, do you know how many millions of dollars they would have to spend in packages and severances and so on? So let's think about it again. Who do you think is going to go home first? So all of these things we need to take into consideration when we are reviewing all of these options, right? Now, with all of that being said, the government still will soon have to do a comprehensive job evaluation. And with that job evaluation, you may see further salary increases. So Nazim on the side, they're working with the public service, maybe working for $2,000. When that job evaluation is done, they may see that no, what Nazim is doing does not require him to be working for $2,000. He needs to be working for $3,000. Nazim now, after that job evaluation, will receive a further increase. And that is apart from the 25% that the union is asking for. Huh? That is set aside from that. So apart from that 25% over that 3-year period, when the government commences the comprehensive job evaluation, it will result in further increase in the salaries of some public officers. So let all of that information sink in. And nobody is saying this conversation is not an argument to determine whether the public servants deserve it or not. That is not the conversation. The conversation is, can it be sustained? Is it affordable? Is it reasonable? Right? So because all of this would have happened, all of these things the government has taken into consideration, the government has provided all of these justifications as to why they are unable to meet this request from the unions. They have now asked the unions, since they insisted that 25% is what they want, they have now asked the unions, well, provide us with some written, documented, factual, something that could hold up, some justification as to why 25%. And mind you, the argument that the public servants deserve it is not an argument, because it is evident that they deserve it. We all agree, it is a common agreement that they deserve it, yes. And it is also a common agreement that if the government was in a position where they could do it, they would do it. So that's not the argument. Give us some justification as to why you believe that the government should pay that 25%. This was done in June. We are in October, closing the end of October. They have demanded 25% and provided no justification. Let's think about that. So, the situation is now deadlock. It means that both sides could not come to an agreement, so it is deadlock. So if the unions are saying it's not deadlock, it means that they are now willing to actually negotiate. Because you cannot go to the negotiation table, and this discussion has been had. This discussion has been had. It's been had when they decided to negotiate for pensions for teachers and for public servants. It's been had. You cannot go to the negotiating table with a fixed amount and not want to budge. You cannot go to the negotiating table knowing that the amount that you have or the demand that you are making is impossible to meet. Because automatically you know that you are going to get a no. So we are in the same situation months after, where according to the collective labor agreements, of course, and the labor court, the dispute must now be referred to the Ministry of Labor for conciliation by the Labor Commissioner. And that is where we are right now. That is the point that we are at right now. Right? So we definitely want to take all of these things into consideration when we are having discussions surrounding that. Because I know there are going to be a lot of discussions surrounding this in the next upcoming weeks. Because we Grenadians, we like them kind of thing. We like things that's get with blood pumping. And there's nothing wrong with that. But just make sure that when you're having this kind of conversation, it is an informed, factual conversation. And the information is there for you to just grasp. You know, I saw the release that the union put out where they're saying that, well, the economy is flourishing. So why not? That cannot be a justification either. And I'll tell you why I say that. It cannot be a justification because in 2008 to 2013, our country, our economy was at -3%. -3. And maybe next week I'll get Nazim to put a number line on the live so we could see it. -3. So 5% growth means that we have come from -3, -2, -1, 0. 1% positive, 2% positive. We have only seen 2% positive growth. So we have grown 5%, yes. But that 5% is 3% out of the red and 2% into the green. And we must understand that. So we haven't grown positively 5% green. We have grown out of the red 3% and into the green 2%. Now, the Fiscal Responsibility Act ensures that we stay in the green and continue growing from there. If at this point, at 2% growth, we decide that we are going to be irresponsible with our monies, what percent do you think we're going to be at? 4 years later, we're going to have a same situation as 2008 to 2013, where salaries couldn't be paid, where there could be no debushing programs, where we could not give any scholarships for children to attend SGU, where we had to cut off assistance from the elderly, where we had to do all of these things. We will be back at that place. And I'm not being biased. I'm expressing facts. This is what it is. This is the black and white of the situation. It has nothing to do with party. It has nothing to do with the politics of it. It is the black and white of the situation. We were at 3% negative. We have grown 5%. The economy has grown 5%, which is absolutely wonderful. But guess what? It only means that we have had 2% positive growth. So let's be fiscally irresponsible. Let's pay everybody who demands 25%, who demands a salary increase, who demands all of these things. Let's just give it to them. Let's be fiscally irresponsible. Where would we be in 2, 3, I ain't even given it all of that. Where would we be in 6 months if we were to do all of these things that we are saying now? Where would the country be? And these are the questions that we as Grenadians need to continue asking ourselves. It has absolutely nothing to do with NDC and NNP. As an independent-minded Grenadian, let's think about this as an independent-minded person. If you have a fiscal responsibility law or act that governs how you spend the money, do you really feel that this act was put in place to tell just the unions no? What this act does, is that it actually puts a handcuff on the government. So the government has placed a handcuff on themselves that says, we are going to be responsible with the people's money. We're going to be responsible with how we spend the money. It keeps them in check. You know? Like somebody say, I noticed plenty potholes in the road recently. Please leave some monies to fix them. And that statement holds so much weight because that is a place that we are going to be at, you know, if we are not fiscally responsible. That is the place that we are going to be at, where one sector is going to have to suffer for another. We cannot be at that place. We have to be smart. We have to be responsible. So nobody is saying that they do not deserve what they're asking for, you know. Nobody is saying that. What we are saying is that in light of the current economic situation, in light of the handcuff that the government has put on themselves to ensure that they do not bad spend people money, we are at a place where we cannot pay 25% in salary increases in the next 3 years to just a section of people in the country. Because that is what it is. It is just a pocket of people that will be receiving these increases. During the time of the reform, when we had the restructuring, it wasn't just the public service that would have made these sacrifices. And I have a call on the line. Good morning, caller. Hello, good morning, caller. We seem to have lost that caller. It wasn't just the public service that would have made those sacrifices. Every Grenadian in some small way or the other. And don't downplay your contribution. Whether you contributed 5 cents, whether you contributed $500, whether you contributed $5,000 to the economic growth of Grenada, you contributed as a citizen of the state. So don't downplay it and say, well, all they didn't contribute as much as we did. We all contributed. So why now must all of the growth go to just one sector and one section of people? We have roads that need fixing, and that's the reality of it. We have schools that need fixing, and I have a call on the line. Good morning, caller. Hello, caller. Good morning. It seems that we've lost them again. And people, please feel free to call in. The number is 440-7377 and share your views with us. Well, let me just sit down here and talk for myself, you know. But it just, you cannot just say that, well, we give the most, so we should get back the most. No. We have to be mindful of all of the people in the country who just cannot do for themselves. And that is just the human in us, being considerate for those who are less fortunate. So if the government were to take all of its resources and dump it right back into the public sector, because they would have given the most during the time of the restructuring, what would happen to those families who depend on the government to provide them with a little monthly assistance? The elderly who are receiving a little monthly pension. The children going to SGU who are getting assistance to pay their tuition to further their education and improve the life of their family. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Good morning. Hi, good morning, caller. Caller, if you're listening to the live video in the back.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
This is Miss Camille.
Hi, Miss
Well, I
Camille.
want to make a appeal this morning, eh?
Yes, Miss
What
Camille.
is the last thing? When people see, people think.
Right.
Yeah. When people see, people think, and they come in after 6 and 7 o'clock. They say, and people holding it for them. I want to put some strict laws. Because a man keeps the function,
oh, no.
and he have a boss, and he won't put it in the boss. He go and put it in the next boot. And the man doesn't open it. You understand? And people find a should talk about the function. I will call him in. He have a boss over here. I want you to let the people know that do not buy stolen goods. There is talk about it on the radio all the time. Do not buy stolen goods from people. You must have your farm and you register and you have your ID that you're a farmer to sell your vegetables. And they keep it in and come in down and sell all over. A holy man yesterday with me from there. And he asking everybody to hold his friends.
Oh, no.
You understand? And when you stop up what you think you have other people in the society that say you don't have no right to take back the pumpkin. Grenadians come and buy the pumpkin. $5 a slice this month.
All right, Miss Cammy. All right.
And number 6 was some over here. You have got some buying things and sell over. And if you don't pay me for me pumpkin, you will have a sale. Have a good day.
You too, Miss Cammy. Oh my, that is very unfortunate. But she did bring across a very good point. Pretty larceny is something that the farmers have been battling with for quite some time. And it's a very unfortunate thing when you work hard in your farm and somebody come and take your thing and go and sell it and reap the benefits. I mean, it's very, very sad. And she is right. Maybe that is something that the Ministry of Agriculture and the Minister of Agriculture can consider. All farmers being registered with their license and pay a fee and have their cards. Present your card as a registered farmer or somebody selling on their behalf. We have a call on the line. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, good day, mistress.
Good morning.
Yeah, I forgot your name, man, but you had it flowing nice this morning. How it flowing nice?
Thank you.
Yeah, what is it? You say something about public servant deserve. You were saying they deserve it, but not all, man. You have somebody deserve 50%. Yeah, some of them, I tell you, they have a whole housing scheme. They could scheme. All funeral they in. All graduation they in. All sick leave they couldn't take it. Everything they always done. When you check the time, like they been in work, like they already work more already. So I don't like it for to say they deserve. Not say some deserve, some even deserve more. But not don't use the term generally all because you have a lot of schemers inside there. You put in the public service, you have a lot of schemers. And if you investigate, you will find them more. So I feel those who deserve it, give them 25%. And those who you see, because people, the supervisors must know who working and who don't working. They must know who they see as scheming and who working. So that's my point for you. Take care.
Thank you so much for your contribution, caller, and of course a valid contribution at that. This is not guesswork. This is not secret. It is common knowledge that there are some unproductive public servants. Mind you, I don't know them by name. But there are some unproductive public servants because there was a survey done recently, and Grenada had one of the lowest productivity rates in the region when it comes to the public service. See, this information is not information that the opposition would put out there because guess what? It doesn't make them look good. It doesn't paint the government in a terrible light. Because that's all that apparently is the buzz right now. Saying that the government is horrible, they're terrible, they doesn't do nothing, everything terrible, everything bad, so get rid of the government. That apparently is their line of reasoning right now. And it's a very sad line of reasoning. Very sad line of reasoning. Because there's so much information other than what you are saying, other than you coming 3 months after and still talking about a cell phone issue that has long been resolved. There's so many other issues that you can alert your people on. So many good things that are happening that you can share with your base. So many opportunities to help improve the life of your base. But no. They say when you keep them poor, they just follow you longer. And Nazim, if you starve a dog, why does do that? Run behind you. And yeah. So if they don't tell their base about the scholarship opportunities, then their people would not be educated. If they don't tell their supporters about all of the programs and initiatives that are there to help them and help their families, then those people will remain their supporters because they don't know. They don't know. So they're going to remain that way. They're going to remain condemning the government because they do not know better. And the administration that they have put their trust in, which is the current opposition, will not tell them. It have a couple scholarships coming up. Look, it have a few job opportunities there. Or the Imani is a good program, send your son. Or Empower is a wonderful program, send your son. They would not say these things because if their base stays the way that they are, they can follow them longer. You know? And it's sad because there's so much happening in the country, so much positivity, so much benefit. Of course, we're living in a country. We're not living in a house. You understand? So there will be problems. And even in a house, there are problems. There will be problems. There are things that need fixing. There are things that needs addressing. But nobody is saying that it's not being worked on. Nobody is saying that it's not being addressed. So we have to be careful. We have to seek information where we cannot find it so that we know what's happening. When we get a little message on our phone concerning NIS, or when we get a little message on our phone concerning NHI, or when we get a little message on our phone concerning salary increases or negotiations, or a little message about Empower, a little message about Youth Biz, when we get these little messages on our phone, we ain't sending it. I ain't sharing it in my group. I'm not sharing it with my friends. But Papa, let Dr. Mitchell go and say something wrong? Social media is a buzz. Everybody is sharing it here, there, and everywhere. These are the kinds of things that we like as Grenadians, which is why we are in the position that we are in. Share the positivity. Let everybody know what's happening. It's not just all bad in Grenada. And I had to tell somebody that the other day, somebody who doesn't live in Grenada, somebody who was looking on. It's not all bad in Grenada. It's not just cut and paste as you see it on social media. There are so many wonderful things happening in the country. But what you see is the negativity. I know time is upon us, but there are a few other things apart from this. I find I spend enough time talking about that Nazim, I spent enough time talking about that negotiation. Honestly, it's a very sad issue, a very, very sad issue, you know. And I wish that we could be more informed as a people when we are making statements, when we go out there on social media and we share our ideas, when we give our opinions. Let it be based on facts from the both sides and not just hearsay. You know, we have to be careful. So we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back with some more information for you.
Pleasant morning, listeners. Welcome to our program brought to you by the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority. It has become typical to see householders go into a shopping frenzy towards the end of November in anticipation of bonuses, back pay, profit sharing, cash gifts from relatives, etc. In other words, we are just under 60 days until the start of the season of increased commercial activities. With this comes increased demands for special collection service for old household furniture, appliances, and fixtures. For today's program, we wish to make a special appeal to householders who have made up their minds to part with certain household items in the coming months to make their appointments way ahead of the date you plan to dispose of your old item in order to avoid the rush of disappointment of having your item on your property well into the new year. Interactions with members of the general public throughout the year has revealed to us that many homeowners are still unaware of the free special collection service provided by the authority to rid of white goods such as refrigerators, stoves, washing machines, freezers, AC units, and furniture such as sofa or lounge sets, couches, beds, mattresses, closets, etc. The lack of use of this service is evidently clear, as we continue to encounter communal garbage bins which should be used for the disposal of regular household waste and secluded abandoned properties regularly cluttered with a wide range of discarded white goods and other bulky items. Through the environmental levy, when paying your electricity bill and the purchase of certain items that are subject to the levy, you have already paid for the disposal of your bulky items and white goods, so householders do not have to pay any extra fees for collection teams to take the items away. So wouldn't it be much easier to book an appointment and have us remove the items than sneaking off into the dead of the night and disposing your items at the nearest garbage bin or illegally dumping at abandoned, secluded properties? The Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority, through its contractors, provides a free once per month per community special collection of large and bulky items to every householder by first calling the authority or the contractor for your area to make an appointment. After an appointment has been made and a day given for the items to be collected, householders must then see to it that these items are carefully placed in front of their properties near the curb on the day given to ensure its timely collection. If the contractor for your area has failed to collect the items on the stipulated day, you are then required to contact us at the authority so the problem can be immediately rectified. This appointment system is needed so as to prevent some of the problems we have encountered in the past, where persons have placed their items out for reasons other than collection, and the authority was held responsible for removing those items by mistaking them as refuse. As we quickly approach the festive season, a time known for homeowners to be engaged in extensive cleanup activity around their property, residents are encouraged to make use of this free special collection service as soon as possible and refrain from waiting till the last minute to schedule an appointment for disposal of your items. You would appreciate there is little time left in the year, and with the service being a once per month per community by appointment only basis, it is imperative that appointments be made as early as possible to prevent your scheduled pickup going into the new year. At this time, we would like to share our contractor number and area of operation for those who may not be aware. We begin with St. David on to Munich St. Andrew. You are serviced by SP Solid Waste Collection Services Limited, telephone number 435-3862. St. Patrick's West, St. Mark, St. John, you are serviced by Mitchell's Trucking Service, telephone number 437-0040. South of St. George, your garbage collection contractor is Kenny's Trucking and Equipment Services Limited, telephone number 439-6605. For the Tongue of St. George, you are serviced by Rainbow Janitorial Services, telephone number 444-0763. North St. George, your garbage collection contractor is Southern Waste Management Services Limited. Telephone number 435-3478. North St. Andrew, East St. Patrick, you are serviced by Island Supply Limited. Telephone number 438-2914. And finally, Carriacou and Petite Martinique, your garbage collection contractor is SD's Solid Waste Collection and Trucking Company. Telephone number 443-7396. For any clarification or more information, feel free to contact the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority on 444-2019. This has been our presentation for today. Do have yourselves a great day from the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority.
Imagine that you've worked all year and finally able to escape to Grenada for the perfect holiday. You are now relaxing on Grand Anse Beach with the wind in your hair and sand on your feet, hearing the sound of the waves crashing on the shore and birds chirp.
Miss, you want any coconut water?
No, thank you.
Oh gosh, miss, buy something now. What about these pretty necklaces?
No, thank you, sir.
You sure you don't want no coconut water? It's good for your daughter, you know. Miss, you have any children?
This is harassment. One bad experience could translate into the loss of new and repeat visitors. Tourism benefits everyone. Tourism is everybody's business.
And we are back. All right. Now, something I want to talk about. Yesterday I wasn't here, so I didn't get an opportunity to really talk about it. Is that memorandum of understanding that was signed yesterday between the government of Grenada and the Chinese government for the refurbishment of the National Stadium. I have to sigh first. I have to sigh because sometimes we never take time to read more than just the title, or to understand what something or what a piece of reading is trying to convey. So let me break it down in black and white. So the Chinese government and the government of Grenada, of course, represented by our Minister for Sports and Culture, Senator the Honorable Norland Cox, would have signed an agreement, a memorandum of understanding for the refurbishment of the National Stadium. And immediately after that information was released, social media was abuzz with all of our specialists in the area of where money in Grenada must be spent. You know, it have those that just come out as soon as you hear $1,000, you didn't know exactly where that $1,000 should go. Those people. And they were on the issue talking about the money should go to healthcare and that the hospital should be fixed with the money. So let me put the matter to rest if I can. We are not, and I repeat, the government of Grenada is not receiving $30 million in cash to fix the stadium. Let me reiterate the point and then I'll explain. The government of Grenada will not be receiving from the People's Republic of China $30 million cash to refurbish the stadium. I had to stress on it because, like I said, we never read past the title. That $30 million is actually the estimated cost of what that refurbishment will entail. And that cost entails labor, materials, accommodation, flight arrangements for the laborers coming from China to refurbish the stadium. We have a call on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Miss Duncan.
Good morning. How are you? I'm good.
Everything okay?
Everything's okay.
Okay. I want to speak on some opportunities, more and more opportunities that we, the Grenadian people, have been receiving from this government.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, I want to speak on 100 have received financial support to start small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Over $13 million was spent on the bushing program in 2018. More than $50 million was spent on providing scholarship to over 173 students in 2018. Over $4 million was spent on the school books and uniform for program in 2018. You have a monthly payment for senior citizens, which increased to $300 per household. Work started to construct over 600 new housing units in 5 locations island-wide. $125 million was received in grant for infrastructure project through NAWASA. Over $3 million approved to make St. George's a climate resilient city. A number of multi-million dollars investment projects have started. More than 1,500 young persons were recently recruited through the Empowerment and Imani program. 100 was employed through other programs, etc. The Traffic Environment one. So, Ms. Duncan, when you look at that, you see a lot of opportunities for the Grenadian people. Right? A lot of opportunities. And this government is making the environment right for people and more people, young people, all kinds of people, to increase the living standard. And when I could say this government, the government that care, this government does look after its people and the care of the people. When you look at the amount of benefit workers receive under this government, no government ever passing Grenada before did what this government continued to do for the Grenadian people. I want to say to people, never forget, I will remember who care and who love them and who is looking after and making their life better is this government. So, Ms. Duncan, you have a wonderful day.
You as well. Thank you. Thank you so much, caller. Thank you so much, caller, for your contribution. Of course, that is just a margin of the good things that are happening in Grenada and the good things that are going to happen for our country. Right? So I was giving you some information on the stadium because that is so important because we were up in arms yesterday about they could spend that money elsewhere. It's not money. It is not a grant. It is not a loan. It is not cash. It is not a check. And I felt like I needed to say that this morning. So what is happening is that the Memorandum of Understanding signed between the government of Grenada and the People's Republic of China is simply them saying, yes, we will dispatch a troop of laborers who will come to Grenada and maintain the stadium. The cost of this, or the overall cost of this, is $30 million. That is all that the document was saying. So I don't know where, there wasn't even a part of the document that said loan or grant or that the government will be receiving $30 million cash, or I don't know where we got that from, that we took it and we ran with it and we said that the $30 million could go to the hospital, and it is not monies that the country will be receiving. It is services that will amount to $30 million in dollars and cents. That's all that it is. So when the Chinese come, you have to pay for their accommodation. They will pay for their accommodation, for their flight, for food, the materials that will be used. They would have to pay the laborers, of course, because they're not doing free labor, right? The People's Republic of China will be absorbing that cost. And that is the figure that they came up with. So I don't know where sometimes we just come out. I just have to go into my little Grenadian twang every now and again. I don't know where we just come out, some of us, and just see something, read the title, and automatically have an opinion on what should happen. We did never there long, you know. We ain't reading nothing the government put out. We ain't care what the document contains. All of a sudden, we have our opinion. I do not understand. Take time to read, and if you read and you still do not understand, ask somebody. Or I think we need to go back to when I taught my grade 2 class, I would always tell them, and it's something that I still tell my son to date. Something that I still tell my son to date. Your opinion is not fact. So maybe when you're saying, Mommy, my opinion is, or I think. That is what it should be. Your opinion is not fact. Because you have an opinion on something doesn't make it fact. So we should start using phrases like, my opinion is, and I think that, and stop just going on Facebook and making a set of pronouncements about things that we are not informed about. We have to stop that. It is a very sickening practice. Very, very sickening practice. Because we are letting people in the diaspora think that Grenada is in a deplorable state. That is what we are doing. We are letting people who are planning to invest in our country think that Grenada is a terrible place to invest. We are shooting ourselves in our own foot. We have to be mindful of that. So the government of the People's Republic of China has so graciously said, let us maintain the stadium that all of you run all your mouth about when we had cricket. Let me just say it plain. That we had so many experts on how the stadium should be engineered and how the stadium should be maintained. We had so many experts on that when there was cricket. Now that the work is actually going to happen, we have so many financial experts telling us how the government of China should spend their money. I do not understand. Why do we keep doing this to ourselves? Now, the government of China decides, okay, fine, Grenadians up in arms about it, we're not going to do it again. Fine. We'll keep we resources to ourselves. Then people go, it have a road and thing in China to build. We go dispatch them somewhere else, let they work for us. And then a year down the line, when the stadium is in a deplorable condition, the same Grenadians who had an opinion on where the resources should go are now going to say, hey, well, the government are doing nothing for the stadium. Watch the condition they had the stadium in. Them Chinese build the thing so high, Grenadians can't go up there and clean it. You understand? We have to be mindful. We have to be we are shooting ourselves in the foot. How can we want our country to grow when we condemn every single thing that is meant to develop it? How? How can we say that the government is doing nothing when all we do is complain? We do not contribute to any conversation. We do not attend any forums. We have nothing to say as it relates to the development. But as soon as something goes bad, we are all over social media as experts just giving our opinions about everything. How can we do that? We have to do better as Grenadians. We have people like Karani James who just rose up from Graves' disease and went and fought to win a medal for Grenada. And we sitting here on our posterior just making a set of nonsense comments. That is not going to help build our country. How can we feel comfortable as Grenadians doing something like that? How can we? How can we? What we need to try to do is to meet the standard that our country is at. The name that is Grenada, the brand that is Grenada, is at such a high standard. Why can't we elevate ourselves to that standard as well? So that it is not just the name and not just the brand, but the people of Grenada. That Grenada on a whole is at a high standard. Why can't we do that? Why can't we just be responsible? When we pick up our phones to share something negative, why can't we say, you know what, let me check the facts on that first, eh? I wonder what negative implications that could have on our tourism sector. I wonder what negative implications this could have on our economy. Why can't we do that? Why can't we be responsible people, responsible citizens? And I'm not saying if something goes wrong, we shouldn't talk about it, you know. But in more cases than often, we find that somebody makes a statement on social media, but when you get down to the meat of the matter, nothing so ain't even happen. Or that is not even the details of what the post contained. and we find ourselves putting our foot in our mouth too often. And it's sad that when we do these things, nobody goes back to social media and corrects it. So you make a statement big, broad, and bold that hurts the healthcare system, that hurts the tourism sector, that is inaccurate. We hear all of these things. But nobody goes back and says, well, after further consideration, after research, after analysis, we found that. Or in correction, the facts are, we don't find that happening. And I'm seeing somebody here named Joel Harper Thomas saying, where is the healthcare in that discussion? And the road as well is in a bad state. Joel, there is nobody in Grenada that is saying that healthcare doesn't need assistance or that the road doesn't need assistance. But we cannot just wake up one morning and say, go and fix the road. It takes so much more than that. It is a process, and we have to respect the process. It might be a slow process. It might be an ineffective process. And if it is an ineffective process, how can we as Grenadians contribute to making the process more effective? These are the conversations that we need to start having as Grenadians. And not just running our mouth about everything that happens bad in Grenada. Does the healthcare need assistance? Oh, nobody more than me would say yes. I agree. But that is when the conversation of national health insurance comes in. And the conversation of what are we as Grenadians willing to contribute to the improvement of our healthcare services. Of course, it's in a deplorable state. But what are we doing, or what can we do to ensure that we contribute to making it better? We are demanding. But what can we do to ensure that the healthcare service is better in Grenada? Are we talking dollars and cents? Are we talking services? What are we doing? Apart from going on public forums and talking about babies dying as if the healthcare services were killing the babies in the hospital, and going and talking about nurses migrating as if nurses migrating is not a wonderful thing, because guess what? When a nurse migrates, it opens a door for one of our young people who's leaving SGU or leaving TAMCC to find a career opportunity. Maybe, just maybe, we should focus on guiding the youth of our country into supplying the needs of the country and stop condemning everything that the government does. Just maybe. We're out of time today. There's so much I wanted to talk about. But, of course, there'll always be another program. Thank you guys so much for listening to Hard Talk. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. In whatever you say and whatever you do, be safe, be secure. I want to be talking with you and not about you.
You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada via www.hardtalkgrenada.com.
My enemy's walls are bound to crumble.
Government continues to reap the benefits of prudent fiscal behavior. Details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Thursday, October 10th, I am Leslie Ann Johnson. The Grenada government is reaping the benefits of introducing legislation to ensure fiscal discipline with the Fiscal Responsibility Law, which was introduced in 2016. Grenada is the second of only 3 countries in the Eastern Caribbean to introduce this self-imposed rule and the first country in the Caribbean to appoint an independent body, the Fiscal Responsibility Oversight Committee, or FROC, to oversee its spending activities. This decision, lauded by international agencies as the hallmark of good governance, is creating tremendous economic opportunities for the country. Through the enactment of the FRL, Grenada has attained a high level of fiscal stability with more than $100 million in concessionary loans and grants from the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the Caribbean Development Bank, and other friendly governments and institutions impressed with the country's fiscal discipline. Grenada was able to significantly reduce unemployment from 32.2% in 2013 to 16.7% in 2018 at the end of the third quarter, as well as the country's debt-to-GDP ratio, which dropped from 108% to 61.2%. These gains also enabled the government to service outstanding debt claims, regularize local supplies, undertake major infrastructural improvement to the General Hospital, the construction of the state-of-the-art Guave healthcare facility, and renovation of many public schools across the country. Grenada is now a model for fiscal discipline and a magnet for local and international investment opportunities, as evidenced in the consistent oversubscription of its treasury bills on the regional government securities markets at very low interest rates. As the benefits continue to roll in, the government must ensure that it maintains fiscal discipline by carefully deciding how best to utilize its resources so that all sectors get a reasonable share of the pie despite competing priorities. Breaching the fiscal rules has the potential to erode the economic gains and undermine Grenada's credibility, and as such, gravely hinder national development. If policymakers do not adhere to the fiscal rules, Grenada stands to lose access to extremely low concessionary loan and grant facilities for projects that will benefit thousands of ordinary citizens. The government says it remains committed to building a society where the needs and interests of all its citizens are met within legal budgetary limits. The Grenada government is willing to invest, if necessary, to help improve airlift to Carriacou. Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Dr. The Right Honourable Keith Mitchell, is reassuring the people of Carriacou that his government will do everything within its power to provide better options for travel between the 2 islands. Providing an update on the planned operation of a 19-seater Twin Otter aircraft, which should have commenced service in mid-August, Dr. Mitchell said the engine of the aircraft has to be upgraded. He was speaking to members of the business community and professionals at a special forum held in Hillsborough last Friday, and he later reinforced the points in an interview with the Ministry of Carriacou and Petite Martinique Affairs.
The investor who had indicated his interest and had in fact acquired that plane already for service in Carriacou had to await the Civil Aviation Authority for permission, because every one of those have to be given license to fly into a particular area. They indicated the engine was too old to be certified, and therefore the investor was asked to get new engines. He is now looking at that proposal and attempting to get that engine. I have indicated to the Minister of Tourism and Civil Aviation that we are prepared as government to partner with the individual, not to have any operational say, but making some contribution to ensure that that the investor would indicated that he may have a financial challenge to acquire new engines. We would want him to do so because we believe that will certainly be a very positive sign for development of the tourism sector in Carriacou.
The Prime Minister has also given assurance that a new airport for Carriacou remains a long-term development plan, but in the meantime, government is forging ahead with plans to extend the runway at the Lauriston Airport. This will enable the airport to accommodate a 72-seater aircraft, something which is anticipated will boost travel activities to and from the island.
The need to increase the length of the runway to cater for small jets has to be a major priority, and this is what the Ministry of Civil Aviation and the government will be certainly working on. with the incoming flights expansion, as we expect, with the increase in length of the runway, you look at what is happening in Carriacou with the major development in Harvey Vale. That is going to be, in fact, has started already bringing in enormous amount of visitors, people with resources to Carriacou, and that, of course, would lead to major opportunities in the tourism sector, and by implication, opportunities of various sectors of the society, whether it's those persons involved in the small hotel sector, those involved in the restaurant business, and other areas of services in general. You will see expansion and opportunities there. And with the development in Livera, Bathway area, with a major investor, which would have implication for Carriacou and Petit Martinique, there'll be further opportunities for the tourism sector to grow.
Dr. Mitchell noted as well that the operation of the Tyrrell Bay Marina project in Carriacou and Petit Martinique are already experiencing an increased number of visitors and people with resources, which he believes will lead to major opportunities in the hotel and services sectors. He also noted that training in the area of hospitality arts is a major priority for Carriacou and Petit Martinique in a bid to ensure that we improve the quality of services offered on the islands. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Grenada, it's coming as the Ministry of Youth, Development, Sports, Culture and the Arts brings to you National Youth Week 2019, and it's one full week of activities, vibes and action as the nation turns their attention on the nation's youth. And it's from Saturday, October 19 till Saturday, November 2nd under the theme Embracing Opportunities, Sowing Higher. October 19th and 20th, National Community Service Weekend, island-wide. October 26th, Health Walk and Ministers Address. October 27th, Ecumenical Service and Peace Concerts. October 28th, Youth Vibe. October 29th, St. John's Youth Parliament. October 30th, Job Fair and Career Day. October 31st, Fun Nights. November 1st, Discovering Talents and Expo. And on November 2nd, it's National Youth Awards. So urging everyone to be a part of Youth Week 2019, October 19th to November 2nd.
Grenada's Minister for Trade, Industry, Cooperatives and CARICOM Affairs, the Honourable Oliver Joseph, joined his Commonwealth counterparts in London on Thursday in a meeting that focused on strengthening multilateral trade, fighting protectionism and progressing efforts to achieve a $2 trillion worth of trade within the Commonwealth by the year 2030 by strengthening 5 key areas of connectivity: digital, physical, regulatory, supply-side and business-to-business connectivity. The outcome of this meeting will shape trade-related discussions at the next Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting scheduled for June 2020 in Kigali, Rwanda. Thursday's meeting was also designed to help build on the progress made at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting last year as heads seek to take advantage of new opportunities. The ministers also reflected on how to make trade more inclusive and sustainable by engaging more women and youth at all levels, as well as developing the blue and green economy. Grenada is collaborating with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank ECCB to launch the Digital EC Carib project, which will see the reduction of cash and the issuance of highly secure digital currency within the ECCU. The project, which was launched 7 months ago, provides the digital platform through a mobile app for member countries to access innovative real-time payment. During a press conference via Zoom on Thursday, Governor of the ECCB, Dr. Timothy Antwine, said the development and assessment of the project is progressing smoothly. He says pilot countries should be able to test the digital platform by April next year.
Go into the App Store, download the app, the DXZ Carib app. You will then be connected with partners, financial institutions, mobile wallet providers. You scan to make the payment. The payment is recorded, and then your account gets debited, the vendor gets credited, and you get a confirmation at the end. We're now about to enter a very important phase, which is user interface and testing and public education. And yes, we have to do a lot of public education around this. We understand that. And so you will see, next slide, you will see a number of steps over the next few months to actually engage financial institutions, finalize the requirements, engage users, make sure that we shape and finesse the user experience in this testing period before launch. And of course, to get the public to appreciate what it is that we're doing. And there'll be a lot more public education on this in the next few months. So I want you to stay tuned on that. Our hope is that somewhere around March next year, March, April, we'll actually go live.
The project not only reduces the use of cash and checks, it also affords a private, highly secure method of doing business.
We're extremely cognizant of the absolute necessity for a safe payment instrument in our digital XCD or digital EC dollar. Therefore, access to the network will be permissioned, will require username and password, and transactions between parties will be guaranteed. That's part of our value proposition for this project. In addition, going back to the KYC protocols and requirements, identities will be verifiable. So, you will be private. We will operate on a private permission blockchain to ensure confidentiality. But built into that system is that we, for example, the regulator, can verify.
Dr. Antoine says by the year 2025, the ECCB could see a reduction in the use of cash by 50%.
Looking out 5 years from now, 2025 thereabouts, we see a reduction in cash by about 50%. Certainly that is our aspiration. Notice, cash does not disappear. So this is not cashless. Cash reduced by about 50%. Checks by about 80%. We go in green. Paper and checks are expensive. We have to reduce our use of checks. Credit cards, debit cards will continue. They have their convenience, and we believe that they will pick up, and we anticipate possibly them growing by 50 or 40% respectively. Electronic payments, maybe by about 60%, the wires and various things. And DXD, or digital dollar, will pick up where the physical cash falls off.
St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Antigua and Barbuda are the other pilot countries. In Grenada, the pilot partners are the Grenada Cooperative Bank, Ariza Credit Union, Republic Bank, GUT Credit Union, Communal Cooperative Credit Union, and CIBC First Caribbean International Bank. And that's the National Report. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson.
Hope rides on the rays of the sun here. So too does the resilience of the people. But in the battle against climate change, will hope and resilience be enough when the lives of those who contribute the least feel the brunt of its effects?
For us here in the Caribbean, climate change and its devastating impacts are our new normal.
Hope is still the strongest currency in these parts. But a devaluation of life can come if the world sells the people short. With the realities of modern times, forever no longer has the same currency it had a generation ago.
Rolling on the way through my journey, I got a triple OG sitting right beside me. This old man, he played fall, he playing knick-knack on my door. Raises of white noise, light up the world. Here we go, and I follow the sun, 'cause it's bright. other side of my window.
In Grenada, like in many places in the Caribbean, there are continuing concerns about rising temperatures and the increasing frequency of storms.
In growing up as a young girl on the Carriacou, the changes, I always tell them the major change started with Hurricane Janet, September. September is a very terrible month for Grenada with hurricanes. Price of progress is always very high. And to me, the whole environmental problem in the Caribbean and in particular in Grenada come with the price of progress.
The country was devastated, almost complete devastation in some villages. First of all, every village in Dominica, every street, every cranny, every person in Dominica was impacted by the hurricane.
I know myself from since this boy growing up, coming here, boys come and enjoy yourself at the beach, and bathe and eat and drink and enjoy yourself and have fun. You never never should meet much with the sea, but I know you want to get rough. The climate got changing.
People here have created their own way of life, overcoming great challenges over the centuries. They are at one with nature, and nature is at one with them.
There are farmers who have irrigation systems. There are farmers who are close to rivers, but there are also farmers who depend solely on rainwater, our rainwater harvesting to grow their plants. And I can tell you over the last year or so, and a lot of farmers have not been able to reach their targets in terms of production.
They followed the sun and the moon and the stars to maintain their livelihoods. Their culture has evolved dependent on the environment, their lives intertwined with its well-being.
We have no choice as a region but to pursue climate-smart development. Building the region's resilience to climate change, natural hazards, and environmental changes is not only a necessary and urgent development imperative, but is also a fundamental requirement to ensure our basic survival as a people.
The problem with climate change is getting warmer faster in the temperate regions, and so earlier in the year, like February, March, when the birds are still here, they don't know they have to go home yet, but all the things that should be happening when they arrive are happening earlier. So their nesting sites are becoming available, their food sources, especially insects, are blooming. So by the time the birds get back to where they have to go, there's no food for them.
Follow the sun, follow the sun.
Water fuels life here. Above as below, without adaptation, much is at stake. Maybe the lives here can be the hope and the light the world needs to make a change before it's too late.
These impacts are reversing economic growth, exacerbating poverty, and undermining the future prosperity of Caribbean countries.
This war was not started on their terms, but one through which they are determined to fight together.
But we can't do this alone. This is why we're calling for greater focus, support, and action from the international community to get us ahead of this climate crisis.
Grenada's National Sustainable Development Plan 2035 seeks to address climate adaptation and vulnerability for sustainable development.
Being on the front line in the war against climate change, Caribbean countries are pushed into action and are finding ways to overcome the challenges.
We're facing a hurricane, Hurricane Dorian, one that we've never seen in the history of Bahamas. I just want to say that as a physician, I've been trained to withstand many things, but never anything like this.
We preserve, we protect, and we promote. Adaptation done right safeguards our economies and builds a better future for us all. The choice is clear. Delay and pay, or plan and prosper.
Hope and resilience may be enough after all. Governments, communities, and businesses are working together in this changing reality to adapt and build a stronger Caribbean as the world's first climate-smart zone.
Investing in adaptation measures is not a cost, it is an opportunity. It is an opportunity to realign our lifestyles and our economies to respect that delicate balance that maintains life on Earth.
Accelerating adaptation would enable us to get ahead of the climate crisis and stay there.
In Grenada, they're embarking on a bold plan to build the first climate-smart city in the Caribbean. If carbon emissions are not capped, if the sea levels and temperatures continue to rise, if we do not act now, all hope will be lost.
The time for action is now. The choice is clear.
The choice is clear. Adapt our world.
With fresh investments in people and infrastructure, with development tied to the sustenance of the environment, with strengthening policies and greater awareness, we can accelerate adaptation and save our world. So join us as we adapt our world.
The choice is clear. Adapt our world.
Adapt our world! With the outstanding performances of the nation's swimmers, with over 4 OECS championships to boast, government has made a significant investment to the Grenada Amateur Swimming Association in realizing its dream to construct an aquatic center. Despite the limitations at the Good Hope swimming pool, Grenada continues to turn out medal winners at just about every tournament it enters. The Grenada Amateur Swimming Association GASA has for years made the best use of the facilities to train swimmers, producing national swim team that has won the OECS Swimming Championships on numerous occasions. Now, government through the Ministry of Sports wants to ensure that swimmers have a top-class facility they can call their own. It has vested a portion of lands at Queen's Park to the Grenada Amateur Swimming Association to construct an aquatic center. Now that the property adjacent to the National Stadium has officially been vested in the name of the association, the executive is moving forward with the support of the government of Grenada and the Grenada Olympic Committee and other key stakeholders for the realization of this plan. The establishment of a national aquatic facility in Grenada will serve athletes beyond those directly involved in competitive swimming. The cross-training of athletes to improve their core sport ability is an increase in practice, and the use of swimming for this purpose is one of the key areas.
I'm just happy to say at this stage
that Gaza has made good progress in terms of advancing the development of an aquatic center. You would be hearing more about this in the upcoming weeks, but we are happy that we can say, with the presence of the strong presence of the government representative here today, we have the Minister for Sport with us, accompanied by the parliamentary representative, and they have been working hard behind the scene, and they have ensured jointly that Gaza now has a land vested in its hands for the development of an aquatic center.
That's Ms. Perron Johnson, president of the Grenada Amateur Swimming Association. Gaza recently engaged a team of key stakeholders, including the Grenada Olympic Committee, ministry officials, and private sector representatives for an initial engagement meeting with a FINA-approved pool design and engineering company. General Secretary of the Grenada Olympic Committee, Vida Bruno Victor, says having the lands means their dream can become reality.
Now, there is a main thing that we are going to support with, and that is the construction of your new aquatic headquarters. I have taken to our Pan Am Sports Executive Board the plans, and thank God that government had given them the land. Let's commend government. Let's give them a round of applause. Because the first question I was asked is, who does the land belong to? So the fact that the land is theirs, we have sent it off to the Pan Am Executive Board, and they're going to be meeting very soon to hold discussions, and I've spoken with Dr. Maglione, the president of FINA, who is my personal friend, and I hope that he is going to comply nicely with the construction of the aquatic headquarters. Of course, government cannot do a lot of things on their own. Neither can the Olympic Committee. But if we all, neither can Sanders. But if we all work together, we can get things done.
Sports Minister Honorable Nolan Cox reiterated his government's commitment to the development of all sports and pledged his support to further development of swimming.
Every development, every advancement of the swimmers, we must attribute some credit to the persons who spend time day after day teaching them the various skills, the various techniques, not only for them to swim fast, but also for them to swim safe. I think that is something that we need to recognize, and I want to thank them for that as well. We want to congratulate all stakeholders, all persons who have contributed to development swimming in Grenada, and to ensure that they continue to do so. Now, when I heard how much figures have been calling out in terms of contribution to swimming, I was like, I didn't think I have any figures to call out in my mind. Then I remember that we gave a valuable piece of asset. We invest that into Gaza, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And just say that we are proud as government to be part and to be partner in this process. And I say here unequivocally that any support that Gaza requires, we are going to do everything we can to ensure that we meet those requests.
Tobias Clement, Member of Parliament, also spoke of the importance to have an aquatic centre and what it will mean for the further development of the sport.
And today, I can say again that I am proud of swimming in Grenada because of you, the parents, you, the corporate citizen, and let us continue to work together to move from strength to strength so that our swimmers can continue to be recognized throughout the world, and so by doing, also our country and our people.
Gaza president says it has been a long road ahead.
Indeed, we are grateful. As you would have heard, the General Secretary of the Olympic Committee announced the progress made in terms of moving forward with the aquatic center. In fact, as she indicated, this is the furthest that we have gotten in terms of moving the process forward. In that, from Gaza end, we have obtained a number of designs, proposals, and we have since selected the option that we think is most fitted for the proposed area to be developed. And through the GOC, they have then submitted the said document to a proposed financer, and she had indicated that it is via the Pan Am Sport Organization.
She says now that the lands is officially in their hands, they are looking towards corporate sponsors to realize the completion of the project.
Sanders did indicate that it is a development that they will be very much interested in terms of partnership with. We have also gotten some other corporate sponsors indicating their interest. So we are in the process now of actually fine-tuning all of these pledges to ensure that these pledges are actually reality.
What sort of sum are we looking at?
In terms of the actual pool construction only, we are roughly looking at 3 million EC dollars. But however, I'm sorry, I do not have the other supporting infrastructural costs with me at the moment.
I am Sherry and Noel, and that's the state of affairs.
The following is a statement from the Ministry of Finance. Salary talks between the government negotiating team and the joint negotiating union team of Public Workers Union and the Technical and Allied Workers Union became stalled and deadlocked at the third session on October 8, 2019. The dispute has now been referred to the Ministry of Labour for conciliation by the Labour Commissioner. The trade unions are insisting on a near 25% increase in pay without providing written justification for their demands. Those demands would increase the government's expenditure on salaries by more than $90 million over the next 3-year contract cycle. This demand is highly unrealistic and far exceeds any such payment of salary increases locally and in the region, including lucrative businesses in banking and other areas of the private sector, with which TAU and other unions have signed. During the last contract cycle, workers received increases every year during 2017 to 2019, amounting to 10% compounded increase over the period. The union's current demand, amounting to 150% of the previous settlement, is unsustainable and unprecedented. The government negotiating team proposes an increase to public officers of $26.5 million as part of an overall package where the state has already made additions to the restoration of pensions to appointed, qualifying public officers. Additionally, the state would provide further increases through increments to public officers whose contracts of employment would now be of an unspecified period, giving them permanent tenure. The union's demand for a near 25% increase in pay will overturn all the sacrifices made by the country to achieve fiscal stability and economic growth. Millions of dollars in grants and concessionary loans currently secured by Grenada would be extinguished. Programs of house repair and training programs for the youth and labor assistance to farmers would have to be cut, and this would also significantly reduce the assistance government provides to homes for the elderly and any wage increase which would go to the workers there. Additionally, Grenada will have to resort to the retrenchment of hundreds of public officers, something the government of Grenada has successfully avoided. The demands would also trigger an inflationary spiral and lead to a flight of direct foreign investment from the local economy, leading to job losses in the private sector and a return to high unemployment and a fall in family incomes once again. Since June this year, the government negotiating team circulated to the unions its policy guidelines for salary increases, which emphasized that salary negotiations must be fact-based and within the fiscal responsibility law. In an earlier letter to the unions, the negotiating team warned that this unrealistic demand raises the question of good faith collective bargaining. And it also counseled that one ought not to come to the table with demands which are financially impossible for an employer to meet. In its letter, the government negotiating team also requested that the unions revise their demands within reason and reminded them that by law, negotiations should be concluded on salary increases by October 31st in order to meet inclusion in the budgetary allocations for the fiscal year 2020. The union's failure to adopt a realistic and reasonable position in the negotiations led government to reject the proposal. The next step is conciliation through the Office of the Labour Commissioner.
"54 farmers are now part of the Silver Sands Grenrop Farmers Program, an initiative that began in March of 2017 with the objective of reducing the quantity of produce imported in the island for use at the resort. The Silver Sands Farmers Program, a joint venture between the Silver Sands Hotel and Grenada, which began with 35 farmers in March of 2017, has now increased to 54 farmers. Culinary Director at the Silver Sands Hotel, John Louis Brocardi, is pleased with the progress of the program to date. During a recent visit to some of the farms with the Government Information Service, he reviewed Phase 1 that included farmers mainly from the St. Andrew Parish.
Well, we kept on pushing in St. Andrews and some of the parts of St. David, the higher parts in St. David's. St. Andrews has progressed quite a lot. We've been steadily purchasing from them now for the past month and a half to 2 months, actually, since about September. As of now, we're buying about 4,000 to 5,000 pounds of produce a week from those farmers, which is good. We still need to push because we had rain, strong rains a few weeks ago, so we lost some crops like zucchini, yellow squashes, tomatoes. So we're replanting that. I think it's part of the trial and error, see what we need to do and where we need to improve. Building greenhouses is the next step, maybe, or protect some kind of protection for the crops to survive those kind of bad weather.
The unpredictable weather pattern is proven to be a challenge. Despite that factor, however, since the commencement of the program, a variety of crops have been introduced to the farmers.
Some great purple pepper, green peppers. We're starting to have zucchinis that are looking good. They taste great. I've sampled them in the past. Very, very, very nice. The seedling farm that we have up in St. Patrick is doing great and is ready to put out for the next batch of crops now. And this is about where we stand, and we're happy. I mean, it's a learning process for all of us. We're trying to help the farmers through Teresa Marichaud to understand the process, what we expect. Again, it's there's the Grenadian ways, and then what I expect. So we try to meet somewhere in the middle and make it happen. So,
what are some of the other new seedlings that you've introduced? I know you had the tomatoes and so in St. Andrew. These peppers here, are they what you introduced as well?
Well, the peppers they were doing peppers in Grenada, doing green peppers. Obviously, for a restaurant, you have the presentation aspect. So we're looking at purple, yellow, red peppers. So we're pushing in that way as well. The melons and the watermelons, we're trying to do colored watermelon, like yellow watermelon, orange watermelons. Just again, variety and the visual aspect on breakfast buffets. We're trying to do and pushing a lot on seedless watermelons as well. Because again, customers, they come and they don't like seeds in their watermelons. It's, I guess I can't blame it because my kids, if I give them raisins or watermelon with seeds, they won't eat them either because they think that they come without seed. That's a natural thing, which is not. So we're trying to push in that. Tomatoes were doing good. Again, the rain affected it last time. And right now, we're actually, we are gearing back up. So we've done a lot of trials over the past 12 to 14 months, and we overproduced at one point where we didn't know what to do with it, and we had a lot of waste, and we gave some away, and obviously we stopped producing because it wasn't, have the farmers working and trying to not sell. It's not fair to them. It's not.
Raul Phillip of Point Estate St. Patrick, who now farms with his father and brother at Lassages in St. David, welcomes the initiative of the Silver Sands. He believes this will provide a ready market for their produce after they have toiled tirelessly under the elements of the weather.
Well, what I go say, is a good enough for all the farmers in Grenada, even including me, understand? Because it come like a big help, you understand? Because enough times we just be planting enough things and others be spoiling, you understand? So more hotels and more places, good for the farmers, so we could sell the produce, we don't have that big set of losses.
So exactly what will you be farming for them?
Well, I go be farming watermelon, I go be farming bell pepper, I go be farming tomatoes, sweet potato, and like pumpkin, even sorrel, tomatoes, whatever they want me to grow, I will grow it for them.
How many acres you working with now?
Well, I'm working with 5 acres and some.
Yeah. And now that you're into the Silver Sands Farmers Program, you mentioned the fact that it is your brother, I think your dad, and yourself. Yeah. Does that mean that you would need to have extra hands?
Well, yeah, it's not a problem, It's not a problem with the extra hands because like I was seed now, I won't try to play greedy and eat everything for myself, you understand? I would like for somebody to eat, you know what I mean? Because you have other people who want to do farming, you understand, and they don't get in the opportunity, you understand. So I'm glad for, you know what I mean, I'm glad for people to come around and, you know what I mean, see what I'm doing, and if they want to join, they could join, and, you know what I mean, and spread the thing bigger, and you have more land around, you understand.
Lydia Bonaparte, who has been into farming from the age of 25, is also part of the Farmers Program. She spent much of her years working with farmers until she was encouraged to branch off on her own.
Well, when Miss Marisho came on the farm to visit Mr. Peters, and he spoke to her about me, that's how I get involved. And being good, feeling good to be a part of it.
This is your particular land, or is land that identified and given to you to do this?
No, it was government space lands for the farmers. So Mr. Peters, who had a say here, gave me, seeing as I used to work with him, he gave me the permission to do something on my own.
And tell me exactly what it is you're farming here for Silver Sands.
Corn, zucchini, and peppers. Corn, zucchini, squash, and peppers, sweet peppers.
Any challenges encountered in terms of planting?
No.
And this particular peppers, is it the first time you're planting that kind?
The first time I'm planting the purple, yeah.
At Shamfor in St. David, we met up with Brian Hazard, one of the youngest farmers in the program. He had a very interesting theory for getting into farming, a decision he took some 5 years ago.
I find all the old farmers dying out and nobody really taking up the footstep. So I decided, well, as a young man, I'll try and make a difference. You know, because plenty young people, they're looking to do farming on a whole. I don't know if because they find farming is a lot of hard work. But once you have a love and a passion for farming, it come easy. Actually, it was a day, well, I think it was a Sunday. Miss Marisho and all they were searching for people to do farming. So that time I just really start to clear down them trees and them. And they booking me on the project. You know, they give me assistance with pump, irrigation and stuff. That's how I really got involved in the project.
Hazard possesses about 3 acres of land to work with, but is currently utilizing 1.5 acres.
I occupy an acre and a half. I'm looking to cut down another half acre to do some bell peppers for the hotel. Bell peppers and Chinese cabbage.
The Silver Sands Farmers Project has received the attention of other resorts on the island, who John Louis says have expressed interest in participating.
I have several chefs from the island, from big entities on the island that have contacted me. One a couple of days ago that is interested in my farmers, in my crops. So I think, I don't want to give all my crops away, and that's why I do what I do, because I want to be exclusive in some produce. But at the same time, I think it's great for farmers that we're actually gaining their confidence again, and that they're confident enough to produce more. So if other chefs can beneficiate from that, the farmers and the economy will beneficiate as well in Grenada, because the more they produce, the better they do, and the more facilities we'll be able to provide them with. And I think one of the next steps, the crucial step, is distribution, which is a lacking factor right now in Grenada, where we need to find or get a truck and really have a way to distribute the produce rather than have one person going around the farm and collecting what we need.
John Louis Brocardi says the Silver Sands plans to further expand the program. I am Sharianne Noel, and that's the state of affairs.